So to continue that, we're going to have our Asia's Education session today, and we're having Cody Dean present for us today. He is the ambassador for Immortalis. Cody Dean is a core leadership voice and ambassador for Immortalis, a pioneering medical freedom zone dedicated to advancing radical health innovation through voluntary ethics, principled governance, and unrestricted scientific exploration. Working closely with Mark Hamilton and his family, Cody's work centers on one unshakable premise, that the right to pursue life extension must remain a choice, protected by design, and never monopolized by political or corporate control. Please welcome Cody Dean.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be talking to this group. Can everybody hear me okay? Everyone that's there live? Oh, good. Okay. So I hope next time I can actually be there in person with you. I wasn't able to make it this time, so I look forward to that in the future. But who all is feeling good from this weekend? Show of hands. Everyone's feeling good? All right. So first thing I want to do, since we're kind of just getting started, let's bring everybody together. Look to someone to your left or your right if you're there live. Shake their hand and say, "I want to live forever." All right. Now look to the other person on the other side and shake their hand and say, "I want you to live forever." For those of us that are watching virtually, this is our fault for not being there to take part of that. So shame on us. So today I want to take a step back and talk about something that maybe is a little bit different. I was going to give some updates about Immortalis, about Neovia, and things are very much moving along there. A lot of really great headway being made, but I don't think I could fill 20 minutes of time giving updates there because quite a bit of that right now is kind of confidential, so that way we don't say too much too fast. So I want to talk about some other very important things that is important to grasp uh, about the longevity movement and what it's composed of. It's very easy to go down the rabbit hole on one track of this movement, but this is a complex movement and mission that's multifaceted, and every part is equally important if we're going to do this right. So as I go through this presentation today, pay attention and see if you hear anything that makes sense in your mind as a way you know how to contribute to this great work that you maybe haven't considered yet. When we think of anti-aging, of longevity, of radical life extension, most often the discussion turns to the science, and rightfully so. This makes perfect sense because logically it's going to be the science that is going to be the direct cause behind indefinite lifespan. But as the name of my talk suggests, making death optional is not just a game of science. I'm going to call all of these things a game because a game is something that we can win. We can learn the rules to a game and we can win it, and we can win it quickly. So this longevity movement is complex. It's not just a game of science. Science is crucially important because what are we physically if not a system of biological, chemical, mechanical, and electrical processes? This isn't my area of expertise, but I know, and many of you in the audience do know the people who are experts in this area. And we know they are diligently working on these age reversal therapies that's going to make up the physical cure to aging. People like Bill Andrews, who's working on telomeres and lengthening that by increasing production of telomerase, by Liz Parrish, who is working on gene therapies and editing our genome, which is incredible work. Greg Fahey, who is working on thalamus regeneration, and Aubrey de Grey, who is doing research on combining these therapies for an exponential effect, and many, many more people. Those of us here, of course, we go to RadFest, so we know a lot of these. And these people, they need our unwavering support as they push forward the front lines of this battle against aging and death. And one of the best things we can do to help them push that front line forward is to connect them with investors. We all know this. Aubrey is famous for going on stage and saying we need money in this movement, but it can't be said enough until there is enough money there and we get this across the finish line. So maybe if you have extra cash to invest or you know somebody who does, maybe consider making that connection for these people who are the scientists because they're the ones who are going to save our lives, literally. This is a matter of life or death. So think about that. But what other elements are there in this complex problem of aging and age-related diseases? In this quest to defeat aging, there's four critical areas that I want to discuss. There's hyperlongevity as a game of science, which we talked a little bit about here, and these people are geniuses are working on that. And then there's longevity as a game of social dynamics, a game of political dynamics, and longevity as a game of personal dynamics. So we're going to talk a little bit about all of these. I'm not going to go further into game of science because this audience here is already well versed and well connected in that aspect, and I'm definitely no authority to speak on that. So let me start by going into the game of social dynamics. In society, we see evidently clear the result of social programming in many areas of life, including aging and death. It's no exception. And perhaps aging and death is one of the most entrenched societal programs currently running. There's the program that says death makes way for new life, that death is a function of life, that death is the end of suffering, and that death gives meaning to life. Now, let's talk about this a little bit. Death makes way for new life. We've all heard the phrase, right? Show of hands. Have you heard that? Death makes way for new life? A few people. Okay. Have you really thought about that though? Because if you do, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because in my mind, nothing shows that life cannot progress and evolve without death. Now, sure, there's the natural process of something dying and then decomposing and becoming food for nature to grow. Sure, there's that, but in my mind, that's irrelevant because we as conscious humans have evolved outside that control of nature, of that function. In fact, we've evolved to control nature. So it's been proven, and we've done this through genetically modified foods. And say what you will about that. There's arguments on both sides of whether that's healthy or it's not healthy. But the scientific point of that is we've taken control of nature, so we don't have to be the ones to die to become the food. We can synthesize, and food for all that. So the argument that death makes way for new life, just we can just toss that out right there. And then death being the end of suffering, I think that's shallow-minded to say that because how much suffering do we witness as a result of age-related diseases? Not just in the afflicted person who has to physically deal with cancers, with Alzheimer's, with heart disease, with all of these different things that happen as we age, but the other side of that is the suffering that happens from the loved ones around the person who is afflicted. They have to watch somebody they love deteriorate from being healthy and mentally sharp and able into becoming fragile and less able until eventually they die. And then is death the end of suffering? No, maybe for the person because they don't have to deal with the afflictions anymore, but the suffering continues in the loved ones because now somebody that they love, somebody that you love, is now not there for you to confide in, to talk to experience life with. But the memory is still there. And so every time that memory comes back in your mind, there's a hint of sadness that you can't make more memories. So death being the end of suffering, again, toss that argument out. It's not true. Death perpetuates suffering in those around the ones who died. Now, Does death give meaning to life? Maybe there's an argument that death does give an appreciation for life while we are alive because we know it's going to end, but I think there's better ways to increase the appreciation for life. And that's by realizing the unlimited potential that life has and that we can gain through living a creative life by creating value and experiencing that value that you've earned through the emotions of pride and joy and love that you experience as being a contributing member of society. So all of those social dynamic arguments, there's arguments against that. And now you have these as clear, concise points. So when you're talking to your family or friends or people out in public, you have this that you can draw on now. There's some deeper social programming as well, and this is a sensitive subject for some people, so we'll go into it carefully, but it has to be talked about. There's the religious programs that push this deathist agenda as well. I'm not here to argue against anybody's foundational philosophy or beliefs because personally, I do see the benefit to nearly all the modes of belief that I've had the pleasure to know at least a little bit about. I will point out, however, that religion has promoted death to be God's will, that death is the way we get to heaven, that death is just a part of the cycle of birth, life, death, and then rebirth, as promoted in Eastern philosophy with reincarnation. And that death is a punishment for sin, whether it's a volitional sin that we commit in life or whether it's from original sin from Adam and Eve from the story of the Bible. So yeah, let's dissect these a little bit too. Death being God's will. Think about this. In the Bible, it says, we are created in the image and in the likeness of God. So doesn't it then follow that if God is the creator, then we are also creative beings, right? This makes sense. And if God is eternal, then it's within our nature to be eternal beings. Now, death is the way to heaven. What about this argument? If you study the Bible, you'll see that it was God's original intention. And I'm talking about this just from the perspective of the Bible. If you don't believe in the God of the Christian Bible or Christianity at all, that's okay. I'm just trying to show different sides that you can have a discussion with someone who is religious, so that way they might be able to see from their own philosophical standpoint that physical immortality is the greatest cause on planet Earth today. So, death being the way into heaven. If it was God's original intention to create heaven here on earth as it is in heaven, like the saying goes, as above, so below. It means that as it is in heaven, so it shall be on earth. Now, this includes the eternal nature of things because is heaven not eternal? Is God not eternal? There's just something to think about there. Now, death being a punishment for sin. This is a very interesting one because the entire New Testament, pretty much, talking about the life of Jesus and his teachings, if we're to die because of original sin, because Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and then talked Adam into eating of it as well, what was the point of Jesus dying on the cross? Wasn't that to absolve us of that sin? So why should we be punished for that original sin if it's already been forgiven, right? And what about volitional sin? Well, here's something very interesting to think about. Most of what we as humans feel guilty about is actually false guilt. It's not something you should feel guilty about. We're just living as humans as we should. We should feel pride. We should feel joy and these different things that certain denominations of religions would have us feel guilty about. We shouldn't be prideful because we are imperfect humans. we can't feel prideful until we're perfect in heaven. I disagree with that. I think we are here to experience life. This is the leading edge. This is the leading edge of heaven here on earth because we get to take part in the creation of it with God. So, what about the things that are maybe real sin, like actual sins that people have committed? Sure, maybe people should feel a little guilty about that because there's this moral standpoint that we feel within ourselves on an emotional level. But even then, what is the purpose of repentance if not to absolve ourselves of that sin and go about a better way? So if someone were to, from that standpoint, repent for their sins, should they still die as punishment for it? I don't think so. So, what about the cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth? Let's go away from Western theology and go back to Eastern theology with the concept of reincarnation. Eastern philosophy, this is Buddhism, Hinduism, and a bunch of other ones. I don't want to leave anyone out, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to dive into each one specifically. So, Eastern philosophy as a whole is designed to show a path to enlightenment, to moksha or nirvana. And each life we live is designed to provide lessons that we're supposed to learn, opportunities to burn off bad karma and to create good karma for the next life. And all of these lessons that we're trying to learn are to bring us closer to that state of nirvana, to enlightenment. Now, if this is true, then I, for one, I don't remember any past life I've experienced. So how can I remember the lessons I was supposed to learn there? So if we forget from life to life the lessons that we have learned, it's going to take an extremely long time to finally get to that state of enlightenment because maybe one lifetime you do really well. You burn off a lot of bad karma, you create a lot of good karma, you've learned a lot of lessons, but then you die. Then you're reborn and you forget all of that. And because you forgot it in this new life, you're a terrible person. You're lying, you're cheating, you're stealing, and all of these different things that in that modality of thinking, of philosophy, of belief is creating bad karma again. So now you're taking a step backwards and then you die again and in the next life you have to restart. This is not very efficient. So what if we were to break that cycle of birth, life, death, and then rebirth, and then never have the death and rebirth? We just are born, and then we live, and then we keep living, and then we keep living. Then we get to remember all of these lessons. We get to understand the karma that we are creating, whether it's good or bad. And if it's bad, we get to learn how to deal with that, how to burn that off, so to speak, how to transmute it. And with that, we get to much more quickly, much more efficiently reach that state of enlightenment or nirvana or moksha. So, something to consider there. Now, carrying on a little bit, there's more social dynamics, more social programming that is the cause of this guilt of life. There's the idea that it's selfish to want to live forever, which I disagree with. If we're to extend healthy years, then we're more able to contribute more and more and greater value to society. So it's actually not selfish at all to continue to live indefinitely. It's actually a way that we will be able to give more than we ever possibly could in a short lifetime where we die at the end of it, especially where the last years where we have the most knowledge, the most experience to give with, our bodies are debilitated. If we take that out of the equation and we live healthy and strong for an indefinite amount of time, the amount of value we can contribute to society grows exponentially. And that's on the individual level. Imagine an entire society of individuals contributing exponentially as time goes on. We can't even fathom what technology will be like in the future that looks like that. Now, there's also the the concept that the desire to live forever is nothing more than the ego fearing non-existence. We are conscious beings. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. We as humans have consciousness, so we are conscious beings. Our bodies maybe are animalistic and a product of nature, in which case our bodies are by nature mortal. And this is evidently true because so far no one has escaped death, and nothing in nature, no animal, no plant has escaped death, although some things live for hundreds of years, which is ridiculous that we haven't done that. But as conscious beings, we are eternal by nature. Consciousness doesn't die. It's the concept of energy. It cannot be created nor destroyed. If consciousness is not the physical body, then consciousness is an energy. And if it's an energy, it cannot be created or destroyed. Therefore, we as conscious beings are eternal. We just have to blend that eternal nature of consciousness and fix the body to keep it running indefinitely along with us. That's the only challenge there. So, ego's fear of non-existence is an irrelevant argument because if we don't die, then the ego could potentially continue along as well. So the argument saying, well, the only reason you want to live forever is because you've just got a really big ego and you're so full of yourself that you think you should never die. Toss that right out. And then there's the idea that wanting to live forever, it just shows lack of faith, a lack of faith in God and heaven, a lack of faith in the reincarnation cycle. Now, I won't argue this point, and there's a reason why. You know what we should have faith in? We should have faith that existence exists, that we are here right now, and that life is, it can be beautiful. It is beautiful. And if you don't see it now, you should understand that you can. And it's just a matter of how you go about your life, the value you contribute, how you create your life to be, then you can see the beauty of it. And you can experience that even through the ugly experiences of life. I don't want to die today. I don't want to die tomorrow. And I'm willing to bet that if I stay healthy and creative and free, then as long as that remains true, I don't think I will ever come to a point of, you know what? I think I'm calling it quits tomorrow. I'm done with this. I just don't see that happening. So I can't argue that it's a lack of faith in God or heaven or rebirth because maybe it is that. But what I have faith in is what is real right here, right now, that we can prove for sure beyond a shadow of a doubt. And this life is beautiful. It should continue for as long as we want it to. And then the last part of this social dynamics, there's this insidious postulate that maybe not everyone is aware of, but it has us accept death because to do so means we receive validation from our peers and from society, that we are accepted as part of what everyone believes to be true. Now, this is interesting because of how evident it is that just because everybody has one way of thinking does not mean that's the truth. And well, today this might not be the best example, but I'm going to use it anyways. Hundreds of years ago, people believed that the earth was flat and it was the center of the universe. Everybody believed that. To say otherwise was quack thinking, quack science. But a few people pursued the science, did the mathematical equations of the rotation of the sun and angles, and I'm not a mathematician, so it's beyond me. It's magic as far as I'm concerned, but I see the evidence of it. And over time, or at first it was ridiculed, but then over time it was accepted as evidently true. Now we get into today where there's people going back to thinking the earth is flat. That's beside the point. We know the earth is round, and it took a few people being called crazy and everybody saying this is ridiculous. Everybody knows the earth is flat But now we know that's not true. What's true is the earth is round. We are experiencing the same thing now. Everybody believes we have to die for a number of reasons. And this group here at People Unlimited, the people who go to RadFest and the different conferences around the world promoting longevity, this is the small group that right now is being ridiculed. But as long as we stay the course, it will become evidently true that we are designed to be eternal as conscious beings. So let's go now into the next dynamic, the political dynamics, because there's a lot going on here. As a theoretical idea, politics is supposed to promote safety for society in the form of regulation, in the form of social programs and entitlements. However, this results in a stagnation of innovation because safety is what we know. Danger is in the unknown. This stagnation creeps into every area of living, including classism, technology, health and medical, and the list goes on, because innovation inherently includes risk. This societal aversion towards risk and the desire for the least effort towards the attainment of comfort and contentment is actively preyed upon to achieve this protection via politics. Innovation dies in stagnation, and society dies with it if nothing changes. What needs to be widely understood is that innovation thrives and brings increased standards of living with freedom. Yes, that does mean more responsibility on the individual level. I'm sorry to say it. You've got to take responsibility for your own life. But it will result in safer, cleaner, healthier, and longer lives for everyone. Now, again, politics is something, it's another rabbit hole we can go down for days, weeks, however long, because it's such an intricate dynamic at play there. But for the sake of time, let's carry on into personal dynamics. We've looked at the world around us and the dynamics at play that pose the biggest challenge to defeating aging, but there's some internal work that must be done as well. Often, as a result of these external programs, there are a myriad of internal postulates and beliefs that run counter to our analytical and emotional drive for ever increasing life. That inner work that every individual must do on their own is to take an honest look at your current beliefs, your current feelings, and your current underlying emotions towards life. Some common beliefs are that life is hard, life is unfair, that you feel unfulfilled in your work, and passion is resigned to necessity and survival. Pain becomes the focal point, tragedy, hardship, martyrdom, and happiness is often mistaken for stimulation from short-term pleasures, which only mask the pain of survival, the burden of life. Now, this needs to shift within you. It's not enough to analytically know better. You have to have that shift from within your being. It has to come from within, from who you are. This is what James Stroll is talking about when he talks about the Christ lineage. That shift to inner peace, bliss, joy, to experience the full spectrum of the dynamics of life. It is a shift to realizing your unlimited creative potential and to living your life with passion every day because you are aligned with your own creative purpose. If we're going to win this war being waged against aging and death, we must reconcile each of these dynamics within ourselves and then within society. So we keep building, we keep shifting the dynamics, we keep speaking life into life itself, and above all, we will never give in, because to give in to death is to betray everything that makes us human. Thank you.
I was gonna give you that one.
Oh.
This one's better.
Wow, Cody, very impressive. Thank you. I commend you for the depth you're going to around the social aspects of radical life extension immortality. Wow, very, very touching. Great conversation. And I know you've been online with us different times, and just want to invite you more to get into this conversation with us, because we're as you've come up with some great thoughts here, and together we're coming up with great thoughts, and we're going to a new place with it. And so I want to invite you to, because you're definitely a big thought leader in this level, and invite you to join us more in these conversations, because we're going to go to new places that will substantiate what we feel here, of this depth of really taking on, as we can call it, the divinity of our bodies. And so thank you for this, for your going to the depth you have with this area, because I know it's no little thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful, actually. So I think maybe some people have some questions. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Cody, I just have a comment, which is, I think did we meet at the first Rad Fest, or maybe it was the second Rad Fest?
The second one.
Yeah, and, I always knew you're an activist, but it's just, I want to say it's impressive to see your growth, and to see where you've taken yourself to make your activism meaningful. And I just want to say, like, you've really grown into your purpose, and it's great.
Thank you. The two of you, especially Jim and Joe, you hold a dear place in my heart, because you've been there for me since the beginning and have been a rock of support in that growth. So thank you.
For sure. Yeah. And really, it's like Joe said, the growth I've seen too with you, and we all kind of then share this growth, of course, and but I feel like you've really put your movement behind your words, and that's the vital thing, that one of the vital things we're talking about here is that we're activists on the truest level, that our physical bodies are behind what we say.
Right.
And so thank you for that, because you've been, Cody has been, I think, to every Rad Fest except the first one. Is that correct?
I missed a couple, but I've always been there in spirit.
You've always been there. He's contributed. He's grown himself. Now he's creating amongst a team this Immortalis, which is extraordinary stuff. I don't know if you were online yesterday, but I did tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing with Immortalis, which is extraordinary, to create a sovereign state where we can have this freedom we need. Scientists and doctors can have the freedom they need to really create. So I don't know if you want to maybe say a brief summary of that or not this time. I explained it as well as I could, but you can explain it better than me. Maybe you want to give a short synopsis of actually where the progress, or maybe you can't talk about it totally now, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I can give the synopsis of it, though, in a quick 1 or 2 minutes without saying more than I should. We are shifting the name from Immortalis to Neovia, because it's a little bit more approachable for conservative politicians.
Understood.
So within this movement, yes, it is Immortalis, and it still very much is that. But when you start seeing the name Neovia in public, you'll know it's Immortalis.
Oh, okay. It's our own secret. It's our personal secret together.
Right. Essentially, Neovia is, and Mariana said this a little bit and when she was introducing me, it's a Freedom City movement. Right now it's happening in the United States and South America, but it's creating the environment where the scientists that everyone here knows, or at least knows about and has been around, can experience the freedom that they so desperately need in order to bring their science across the finish line to cure our aging, age-related diseases, and eventually death, so we can live forever. It's been said for the last probably 40 to 50 years that we're 3 to 5 years away, 5 to 10 years away from a major breakthrough to immortality. Now, I'm not the greatest mathematician, but 3 to 5 years and 40 to 50 years don't quite add up. The math isn't mathing.
Agreed.
So what we're doing is creating that environment where the regulation is streamlined to only maintaining safety and efficacy. So that way we don't have snake oil salesmen defrauding people just trying to make a buck. We have good, clean science, but they do it a lot faster and therefore can do it cheaper. It's going to bring more investment in, and it's a whole synergistic effect that's going to happen. And if anyone has any questions or wants to talk to me further about that, I'm pretty easy to get in touch with. You can find my channel on YouTube. It's the Immortalist. A number of people that are there at People Unlimited have my phone number and my email. So feel free to give that out, get in touch with me. I'll be happy to talk more about this in depth with whoever wants to hear.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, any other questions?
Okay,
Anybody?
do we have questions? I do have a question. It might be a tricky question for you, Cody, but when you're speaking from your perspective moving forward, how do you feel about speaking to people that don't feel this yet, like everything that you post here today? Because I feel, today we're kind of singing to the choir, but outside of us, moving forward, what do you feel about what you are proposing, what we're all feeling and proposing, versus speaking to more of people that already feel the way we do and bringing them in? Do you feel that you're focusing your efforts more on people that don't feel this way but might have the power for, or are you guys more focused on people that already maybe like us and maybe bringing us together?
Well, Neovia as a movement is not so much focused on talking to everybody. It's more focused on getting the job done on the political and scientific level. But for me personally, it is kind of my role to be on that public front. So I do talk to a lot of different people. And there's something to be said for people like Jim who just very powerful. This is what it is, and you need to understand it this way so we can grow the movement, and we need that. But there's a subtle way of going about it that is needed as well, and this is more geared towards the people who maybe right now are opposed completely to the idea of longevity. And that's the concept of not coming out in debate against anti-aging. I guess I could say it that way, but it's planting seeds. So instead of saying, no, you're wrong because it says this in the Bible, or no, you're wrong because this is something that's been proven throughout history, there's a dynamic of, let me listen to you. You're against this anti-aging movement. Maybe you know something that I don't, and you let them talk it out. And then while they do that, they're going to give you the ammunition so that way you can plant some seeds in their mind that will germinate later. And, maybe in a few days or a few weeks or a few months, it's going to be their idea that longevity is the right way to go about it. So that's my approach.
Yeah, great. I like that. Yeah, there's a place for all the voices, in this movement that's so important. And at the same time, I'm in agreement with you, across the board that we're not out to fight a system. We're out to show a better way, you might say, and listen well to those who do oppose, and then come up with answers that could be better than what they're proposing. But yeah, but it's really true though. We have different voices in the network, and we need to appreciate them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Great question, Mariana.
No problem. Thank you. It's great seeing you again, Cody, and I appreciate your time here with us so generously. So thank you again for coming online with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for not throwing on an extra 15-minute talk like they did to us in Madrid.
Yes.
Thank you, Cody.